Some of our subscribers here on the channel have asked, how do I handle belligerent behavior between my kids? Let's get into that today. I'm Dr. Paul Jenkins. I've built my career on family psychology, especially from a positive standpoint. It's not very positive when our kids are fighting with each other. Let's go over first the family rules that are going to work for your family, and then I'll share a powerful model with you that every parent needs to know. It can be really frustrating to go over endless rules with your kids. Now, you can't do this and you have to do that, and the list gets long and cumbersome. And you know what? Kids are bright enough to find stuff that's not even on the list. Oh, that wasn't one of the rules. Have you ever heard that one? Let's get past that with 3 effective family rules. Now, I would encourage you to write these down. In fact, maybe even make a poster. I know Vicki and I, when we were raising our kids, had this posted right above the dinner table. The 3 family rules. These are the only 3 rules you're ever going to need. So get ready to take these down. Rule number 1, respect yourself and others. Do you like that one? So this covers all of those things that we're concerned about with our kids being belligerent to each other, or mean, or rude, hitting, biting, kicking, maiming. All of those things are covered in rule number 1. But also those nasty words that we use with each other, or name calling, or some kind of offensive behavior toward other people. It's all covered in rule number 1. Can you get behind rule number 1? Respect yourself and others. Here's rule number 2. It starts exactly the same way. Respect, but the word here is property, stuff, belongings. This means that you take care of your things. You put them back where they belong. You don't misuse the equipment in our home. You don't take things without asking. No vandalism, no destruction of property. Do you get it? Now I have to add something right here, because these are family rules. These are not just rules for the kids. These are rules for everyone. That's why it's so important for us as parents to set the example of following these rules. Now, it seems like we've already covered pretty much everything that you're concerned about. Respect yourself and others. Respect property. There's one more rule I want to share with you, and it also begins with respect. Respect authority. Now, we're not going to get into a big philosophical conversation about authority, because I know some of us have issues about that. But for our family rules, all it means is we need to recognize the structure around us that creates order and also establishes you as the authority in this home because you're the parent. But authority extends beyond the home too. It gets to respecting the laws of the land, or the authorities in your community, or at school, the teachers, the principal. So respect authority has to do with cooperating and obeying appropriate guidelines and rules and structure. This becomes kind of a catch-all, because if we didn't pick it up in rule 1, respect yourself and others, or rule 2, respect property, because whatever you set up as a parent becomes one of the rules when it relates to family expectations or values or other things that you think are important for your family culture. Okay, so you got the 3 rules. Get them in a physical format where you can post them on the wall, and this becomes part of your family culture and the conversations you can have with your kids. Now, to directly address our kids' behavior and how they treat each other and how they respond to us as parents, we want to teach this next. Every choice has a consequence. Do you believe that as a parent? Think about it. If you make a choice to go to work, what's the consequence? What if you choose not to go to work? What's the consequence? Every choice has a consequence, and then we mix that up with the next part. The better my choices, the better my consequences. Now, I get it. Some things you don't control, and some things just happen. It's not a result of your choices. That's true. Welcome to Earth. But for the most part, every choice has a consequence. The better my choices, the better my consequences. That's the next thing we're going to teach the kids. because their choices related to those 3 family rules that I just shared with you are going to determine what kind of a life and experience and freedom they get to enjoy. I am so pleased that you're still with me and that you've stuck with it for this long. If you have, you want to click that subscribe button as well, because there's more content coming to support you as a parent. A little earlier, I promised you that I would give you a powerful model that every parent needs to know. This is something that I've developed over 30 years of clinical practice and experience, and it's something that will change the game for you as you have conversations with your kids. Before I describe that model to you, I also would love to send you a physical copy of this. Just go to the URL on your screen, drpauljenkins.com/stages. You'll know what that means in just a minute. And I'll send you a PDF copy of this. It basically has to do with the interplay between control and maturity. When you get your PDF version of this model, you're going to see that I've plotted control against maturity. Basically, what this means is that your control in life depends on how mature you are. And when we look at control, there has to be 100% control. It goes from 0 to 100%. And as you go through life, it's going to be some portion of that. So either you have all the control or none of the control, or somewhere in between. Does that make sense? It's usually somewhere in between. Now, maturity goes from immature to mature. And the best way to think about that is age. When you're first born, how much control do you have over your own life? Right, hardly any. You can make a big noise and a big stink, but that's about it. When you're an adult, how much control do you have? Now, I know for adults, we always think about the small print, right? There's so many things that we don't control. But for the most part, as an adult, you have full control over your own life. And kids get this. They look at the adults and they think, oh, they've got all the control. So between birth and adulthood, your control gradually increases. Going back to the model that I showed you, it starts low and it goes to the higher end. So as you become more and more mature, you get to have more and more control over your life. That's what the model shows. Now, here's where it gets exciting. Maturity is not just about age. It's about stage. That's why I mentioned the word stages earlier. If you just think about it as maturity being broken down into 3 distinct stages. Okay, stage 1 is the least mature. At stage 1, we're demanding and manipulative, and we throw tantrums, and we're fighting and screaming and yelling. Sound familiar? This happens with kids all the time. When you're seeing belligerent behavior between your kids, guess what stage that is? Yeah, stage 1. That's why it's so important to understand this model. But parents can go to stage 1 too. You ever end up yelling at your kids? I know, this isn't a confessional. We all do it, okay? Because we get frustrated. We got a lot of other videos here on this channel to help you with that. But notice that that's stage 1. If I go back to the model, stage 1 doesn't give you very much control for yourself, and somebody else is taking most of the control. That's the part up on the top. Stage 2, let's go there. We stop fighting and start cooperating. Now think about this. When your kids stop fighting with each other or with you, and they're willing to cooperate, you as a parent can back off on the control. That's the top side of this model, because your kids are taking more control. They're being more mature. You get it? It's about stage, not age. And when kids choose to go to stage 2, we take a little different approach as parents. Now, how about stage 3? Stage 3 is the most mature of these 3 stages. At stage 3, we're worried about values and morals and ethics and doing the right things for the right reasons. We have compassion and empathy for other people. Do you see how mature this is? And it takes a while for kids to develop this level of maturity. But at stage 3, going back to the model again, you as a parent get to back off on the control because your child is mature enough to take responsible control over their own life. That's why this model is so important to understand. It's the stage of our children that determines what we do as parents when it comes to discipline. And most parents get frustrated when their kids are on stage 1, like when they're fighting and arguing with each other, or being disrespectful towards themselves, others, or property, or refusing to cooperate with you, see, that's stage one. That is totally stage one. And when our kids are on stage one, we have to approach that a little differently than when they're on stage two and cooperating with us. The skills that you need as a parent start with understanding what stage your kids are on, and then based on that stage, applying appropriate discipline for whatever stage they're on. You are a good parent, I can tell, because you stuck through this entire video and there's more resources available for you. Watch this next video. I think you're going to love it. It's 5 powerful secrets for teaching children responsibility.